Press Association Andrew Marr, left, and Business Secretary Greg Clark, right, appearing on BBC on the Brexit referendum campaign. The key message of the Remain camp was that if we dared to vote leave, the roof would fall in on us. The country would be plunged into recession. Jobs would go overnight. Investment would dry up. And the city would decamp en masse to Frankfurt. The then Chancellor George Osborne even unveiled a draft budget that he said he would have to implement within days of a leave vote. Public spending, especially on the NHS, would have to be slashed and taxes increased to plug a supposed £30 billion black hole. It was all, of course, every dot and comma of it, utter rubbish. It was political campaigning at its worst, using entirely spurious suppositions to engender as much fear as possible in the hope that supine voters would be cowed into supporting Remain. But 17.4 million voters told Mr. Osborne and the rest of the Remain campaign what they could do with Project Fear. You'd think, wouldn't you, that the Remainers would have learned their lesson? You'd think that they'd have learned that we won't be bullied by scare tactics into submitting to their Euro-fanaticism. But no. Getty's House of Lords is trying to ignore the will of the people. The Remainers appear to have ignored every lesson from their own awful referendum campaign and instead adopted as their strategy a playbook of the world's worst political advice, beginning by adhering to the motto, if it hasn't worked once, try again. Because Project Fear is back. This weekend Business Secretary Greg Clark said that we have to have a customs union with the EU, or a partnership, as the Remainers call it, because they think the word is less objectionable to the 17.4 million who voted for Brexit, because thousands of jobs would be lost if we negotiated our own trade agreements. He went on to say that the so-called transition period, due to end in 2021, could be extended, again because it might be the only way to save jobs. In a classic piece of political doublespeak, he said that of course he wasn't talking about extending the transition. No, no, no. How could anyone think that? It wouldn't be a question of extending the transition. It would be, as it were, implementing as soon as you can do. There will be different parts that can be done immediately. There will be things that will take more time. In other words, extending the transition. This is what we are up against. Remainers who will say the very opposite of what they mean because they know they can't be open about how hard they are fighting Brexit. Last week, for example, a majority of the so-called Brexit war cabinet made clear to Theresa May that her preferred option of the UK remaining in a customs union with the EU should be dropped. Quite right too. The worst possible outcome of Brexit would be to notionally leave but to nonetheless remain in a customs union. That way we would have zero influence on the EU's trade policy, but would be forced to abide by it, and be completely unable to make any deals of our own. Making our own trade deals was a crucial part of the Leave campaign. The slogan "Take Back Control" goes to the heart of the debate. And it is sophistry of the very worst kind to pretend, as the Remainers do, that this is all an entirely separate argument from the argument over leaving. The two are intertwined. But despite the Brexit war cabinet adopting the only sensible stance, that leaving the EU means leaving the EU's customs union too, Remainers simply won't accept Brexit. So they have turned again to Project Fear. Mr. Clark is a decent man, but like so many Remainers he cannot abide the prospect of Brexit. And so on Sunday he said that a customs union is still on the table, still a live option. He went on to talk about the 3,500 people employed by Toyota, implying that if we were outside a customs union those jobs would vanish. In one sense this is all very odd. That is the very definition of Project Fear, attempting to put the fear of God into us that the economy will grind to a halt outside a customs union. Getty's Prime Minister claims she wants a break from the customs union in public. Mrs. May has apparently been unambiguous. This weekend she repeated her pledge that we would leave the single market and customs union. She spoke of her determination to make a success of Brexit by leaving the customs union and building a new relationship with the EU that takes back control of our borders, our laws and our money. But read those words carefully. If we leave the existing customs union only to join a newly agreed customs union, then we have supposedly fulfilled Mrs. May's pledge. This is the kind of game playing that has led to politicians being held in contempt. The referendum was clear. Pretending it was about the difference between the and a customs union fools no one but does take us all for fools. You might have thought the battle for Brexit was won when 17.4 million of us said we wanted to leave. As we've seen this week, however, and the House of Lords has shown, That was the first in a long series of battles. The revival of Project Fear is the latest attempt of the Remainers to stop Brexit.